distance a very difficult fucking task. Okay, but it's also a necessity. You have to have railroads. You have to have railroads carry toxic chemicals. Okay? And sometimes derailments are going to happen. But the goal of the regulatory body is to ensure that the damage is minimized. Just like what we talked about in Turkey. You know these things are going to happen. You know accidents are going to happen. Your goal is to minimize human error. Your goal is to ensure that even if accidents do happen, that the damage is softened. But of course, all of those things can be considered redundancies. Okay? Redundancies, however, save lives. And they want to do that in every aspect of our lives. They want to do that in commercial aviation, not just transportation, but like human beings flying on planes. They want to go after every facet because ultimately profit rates have a tendency to decline. And when that happens, you got to find new ways of generating profit because profits have to keep going up. Even though it doesn't want to. It can't. How do you do that? By slowly but surely monopolizing sectors and inevitably raising costs or raising the prices or reducing redundancies. Redundancies that were put in place and inked in blood as a consequence of regulations that were put forward when people died prior to a lack of such regulation. This is how this works. This is why I always say, all matter of rules and regulation is written in blood. But we just keep going back to that. Keep going back to that because, you know, the profit gods, we are beholden to them. The only way to stop that is by creating stronger labor protections and allowing the labor unions to, you know, advocate for best safety practices. Because they know better. They know better than the executives, always. This is yet another great example. People always say, like, oh, labor unions, you're giving too much power to the workers. What the fuck do the workers know, right? Well, there you go. They knew about this. They talked about this. And it fell on deaf ears. And this is just one issue. This is just one of the normal aspects of living in the United States of America, okay? That's why Norfolk Southern thought they could get away with paying $25,000 and moving on. Because it's not even as bad or as public as like other train derailments that end up killing people with explosions or with, you know, trains actually with impact. And that's it. Because they do get away with it. It's no different than the 5 cops in the Scorpion unit that brutally executed with their bare hands Tyree Nichols. They were on camera talking shit. They didn't think they were going to get punished because that is the normal standard operations. That's business as usual. So they didn't even think that they would get in trouble for it. You know? Anyway, let's get back to the Chinese spy balloon now, because balloon wars are happening.
The newest information on a Chinese spy balloon shot down off the Atlantic coast shows that U.S. intelligence first spotted it close to half a world away. Our sources say the military tracked the balloon for a full week before it drifted across the continental U.S. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House. Ed, what's going on?
Nate, good to see you. You're right. CBS News has learned U.S. intelligence had actually been tracking the balloon when it took off from Hainan Island off of the South China coast last month. At that point, it then started drifting towards Guam and Hawaii before making a northward turn up to Alaska. Officials say it's possible the balloon was blown off its initial course by weather, but they insist the Chinese still had control of it as it came south over the lower 48 states. As for the 3 objects shot down this weekend by these U.S. fighter jets, the strongest theory now from the intelligence community is that the objects are benign or just harmless research balloons. There's still no word on the condition of the wreckage. And in the case of the object shot down over Lake Huron, we now know 2 missiles were fired and the first missed, but landed in the water. Privately recorded cockpit audio reveals that even the pilots were perplexed by what they saw.
I can see like lines coming down below, but I can't see anything below it. Definitely smaller than a car.
Now, we've yet to hear from President Biden about what he makes of all of this, why he decided to order the shoot down of those 2 objects, what he makes of China using a spy balloon. Lawmakers briefed on the details now say he should be saying much more to explain this to the American people. But today, Tony, he's instead giving a speech on the economy up in Maryland.
Very interesting, Ed. Thank you very much.
Turning overseas.
Man, that's crazy. Why are they fucking... That's weird. Why is he not talking about this fucking balloon, dude? I wonder why. Anyway, there's updates on... Okay, I don't care about Rebecca Jones. Oh, there's updates on, what do you call it? Should we watch the PFAS one? The factory is about PFAS contamination because it's like an ongoing issue. Oh, this is Turf Brain. Here's a quick note on how brain broken transphobes are.
Donda, I promise to love and respect you forever. I promise to always speak the truth. That a man is an adult human male and a woman is an adult human female. Together we are free.
That's so cool. I love that. Thanks, man. You're definitely normal. This is what you're thinking about in this like supposedly beautiful moment in your life. You know? Got a new TikTok up? Wait, I do?
Have you been watching Last of Us?
Yeah.
When you watched episode 3, did you think of you and me?
No.
Oh, sad.
Me either. No one's saying that.
Yeah.
No
What?
one's saying that. It's so weird.
Is that what you thought?
No.
I mean, we would definitely survive apocalypse together very
Yeah.
well. We'd have a lot of fun.
And we'd also find
I'm
meaningful
on-
love.
I'm on board with that. I'm on board
Oh.
with that. I like that.
Have you been watching Last?
Nice. Here, let's watch this non-stick PFAS
Scientific
contamination.
opinion states that today's non-stick cookware is really quite safe to use, assuming you don't get it way too hot. And so I use non-stick pans a little bit, but unfortunately, the conversation can't really end there. Even if the pans are basically safe, the factories that make them are not. Nor do they remain safe when we eventually throw them in the trash one day. And that doesn't
Silken
just go
Cookies,
for
thank you for the
non-stick
50 gifted
pans.
subs.
It goes for grease-proof fast food wrappers and a billion other consumer and industrial goods on which modern life is arguably dependent. This topic is a drag, but it is time to talk about PFAS chemicals in our homes and in our environment. Whether or not you avoid certain products, your very existence as a human consumer is contributing to the accumulation of PFAS in our world, to the point where exposure is literally unavoidable. And scientists have linked PFAS exposure with elevated risk of cancer, diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and therefore cardiovascular disease, liver disease, thyroid disease, asthma, infertility. The good news is increased awareness is leading to increased public pressure on government and industry. For example, McDonald's recently said they're going to change their packaging, but there's a long way to go, and even if we can motivate change, nobody's even totally sure what the right change is. PFAS stands for, wait for it, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. It's a big category of synthetic chemical compounds that includes Teflon and other nonstick coatings, but it also includes chemicals used in the manufacture of those coatings and in a million other things. If you've never heard of these compounds, do not feel dumb. I mean, at the University of Michigan, you've got one of the global experts on PFAS exposure, Dr. Sung-Kyun Park, and
I didn't know PFAS until like the 2015.
the guy's an environmental epidemiologist. He did his doctorate at Harvard, and even he didn't really know about PFAS until kind of recently. That's how new our understanding of this problem really is. But yeah, in 2015, Dr. Park was working on what they call a cohort study. This is where
Of course, he didn't know about it because he's on the other side. You know who knew about it from the jump? The motherfuckers that work at DuPont. But as is the case with everything, it's the same exact story. Just like with the fucking DuPont knew about it, just like Exxon knew about anthropogenic climate change. Okay? It's always the internal analysts and scientists that know about the devastating consequences of the top of the hour ad break before anyone else knows. But I'm here to warn you about the top of the hour ad break, and I'm here to tell you that you can avoid the top of the hour ad break by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you get one free Prime subscription a month. And that is the method to use to avoid the top of the hour ad break. Okay? Silken Cookies gifted 50 gifted subs, allowing 50 people to also avoid the top of the hour ad break. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Anyway, PFAS, or at least like chemicals used by DuPont, were originally used to coat tanks in World War II. They liked it a lot. They were like, let's use it on home appliances, home goods. And they did that.
Where scientists identify some giant group of people and they follow their health closely, usually for many years. This particular cohort Dr. Park is working on is called SWAN, Study of Women's Health Across the Nation.
It was coincidence, so I included, because I wanted to measure many different chemicals, and then one of them was just PFAS, even though I didn't know much about PFAS at that time. And then in Michigan, like in near Grand Rapids, so there was a big contamination issue in Grand Rapids area.
Yeah, this was a case of groundwater contamination caused by Wolverine, a shoe company. PFAS-based waterproof coatings are used on shoes and all kinds of outerwear. Michigan, with its long and proud industrial history, is just full of PFAS contamination sites that state environmental officials make very easy to see on their website. This one here is not a particularly bad one, it's just one that I could film legally from nearby public parks and streets. The BASF Northworks plant, just south of Detroit. It's a chemical manufacturing plant with known PFAS contamination in the groundwater. For decades now, they've had a deal with the government where they pump up the groundwater, they filter out the bad chemicals, and then they discharge the water back into the Detroit River. This is the discharge point, conveniently located at the end of a public street where I'm entitled to stand with a camera. Despite BASF's treatment procedures, they've found unacceptably high levels of PFAS coming out of here into the river in 2020. The city of Wyandottes' drinking water intake is literally right downstream from here, so the company and the regulators involved all say that they're working on it. Subsequent water tests have been okay. Again, that's just one easily photographed example, but PFAS contamination is all over Michigan, unfortunately. And there have been a lot of legal cases lately that have been in the news, and so at the University of Michigan, Dr. Park read about one of those cases, and then he realized something.
I realized that, oh, I measure PFAS in my study. I was able to use blood sample collect back to 1999.
He was already sitting on the data, so here we are, 2022, Park et al. Find a link between elevated PFAS levels in the blood and diabetes. Probably type 2 diabetes, though their methods couldn't distinguish for sure. They had to adjust for demographics and smoking and alcohol and stuff, of course. People usually don't want to live near a chemical plant, so the real estate there is cheaper, so poorer people end up living there, and therefore they bear the brunt of the environmental exposure. Poor people are already more likely to have diabetes because they're more likely to smoke and drink a lot and eat a lot of junk for all kinds of reasons. But you can use math to account for all of that. And when he did, Dr. Park found that elevated PFAS exposure by itself, that increases risk of developing diabetes about as much as smoking and being overweight increases your risk of getting diabetes, at least in this large cohort of middle-aged women. Why do these chemicals do this, and how can we keep ourselves safe? Well, Dr. Park is going to tell us what we know. But if you need to keep yourself safe on the internet, consider Surfshark, sponsor of this video. Being on public Wi-Fi, Surfshark. Anyway, PFAS chemicals, what exactly are they? Well, chemists make them in all kinds of forms, but they tend to resemble lipids, fats, like the ones we cook with and eat.
So fatty acid has hydrogen in their carbon chain. PFAS, instead of hydrogen, it has fluorine.
Fluorine, the chemical element fluorine. Fluorine forms an incredibly strong bond with carbon, and so you get a compound that is very, very durable across very wide temperature ranges, good for kitchens, good for industry. And because this compound doesn't really react with water or with oil, it just makes an incredibly good protective coating for all kinds of things, not just pans. Dr. Park actually pointed down to his feet at an example. Most carpets installed in public places these days are just covered in PFAS-based anti-stain coatings. PFAS chemicals are also very effective surfactants, meaning that they lower the surface tension of liquids. And that's very useful when you want to spread a very thin, even layer across something, such as when you are chroming metal.
Like in Michigan, in Detroit, so there are a lot of this auto supply company, and then they are using this electroplating, so the chrome plating, to make the the material shiny and then look good. And because this chrome, so hexavalent chrome is very this is carcinogen, and so that's a worker who are using this material, and then they could be exposed to this. And so that's why, to protect workers, company need to block this vaporization of chromium to the worker, and that's why the surfactants should be used. And then PFAS is the best surfactant.
Now, that's not a particularly important example in and of itself. I just offer it as an example of how this is bigger than pans. These PFAS chemicals are everywhere and in everything, and that carbon-fluorine bond is so strong that these chemicals do not biodegrade. That's why people call these forever chemicals. Even when we're not dumping that many of them into our rivers or whatever, they accumulate, most worryingly in drinking water, but research has shown that they bioaccumulate in the foods we eat because PFAS is in the groundwater and in the rainwater. PFAS has also been shown to accumulate in the solid waste they collect out of your sewer system. They recycle that waste as fertilizer, which is good, but then you're putting PFAS into the soil, which is bad. PFAS chemicals can also hop right into our mouths on our fast food. Remember those grease-proof wrappers. Can also get in there from the lipstick that you put on that uses PFAS chemicals as a surfactant. Can also get into your mouth on the dental floss, the kind that kind of glides right between your teeth really nice. That's because it has a non-stick coating on it. And when it gets into your body, it accumulates in your body.
Typically, PFAS stay in the body for several years. Half-life is several years, which means that if you have, let's say, about 100 your exposure level, so then about it requires about a decade to reduce this into the 50, and then another decade need for like reducing to 25, and so that's why if you really want to remove all PFAS out of your body, then it takes forever.
That's happening to all of us all the time. But imagine if you live near some point source of environmental contamination, like a factory or a garbage dump, or an airport or a military base or a water treatment plant. Those aren't very nice places to live usually. So
Pretty much described like the entirety of the United States, by the way, the continental U.S. and Hawaii, of course, as well. But it's like, this is why I was saying it's like impossible to fucking escape, dude.
So mostly poor people live there, and if you do live there, you're at risk of really high exposure. And why is that so bad? Well, because PFAS chemicals resemble fatty acids on the structural level, and so your cells can actually confuse them for fatty acids and take them in.
This PFAS can interfere with this fatty acid metabolism pathway, and that's why PFAS can impact our...
I know you won't read this, but a lot of public health peeps, including I, are HasanAbi heads. Did you know that workers' comp was initially to skirt regulation of medical bills in the asbestos industry? Most of these things tie back to labor. If it's allowed there, it's allow for consumers. Yeah.
Metabolism and the immune system and your brain function, and a recent study also suggests that people with high PFAS in their blood, so their vaccine efficacy is lower, which means that even though you get vaccinated, so you are not able to produce enough antibody because PFAS interfere with this, vaccine generate this antibody. So that's another big problem.
Why are any of these chemicals legal? Well, some of them aren't anymore. But industry, as we know it, really depends on PFAS chemicals. So if a government says, hey, you're not allowed to use PFOA anymore, well, chemical engineers say, okay, we'll just use this other PFAS chemical instead. And then it takes scientists another decade to prove that this new chemical is just as bad as the old one, and then the government has to get it together to...
The funny thing is, like, in Dark Waters, they described this so perfectly, or they detailed this so perfectly, is that, like, the EPA does not have enough funding to figure out what kind of PFAS, like how these chemicals are created, what it does, how devastating it is in the short term or even in the long term. It's when it gets completely out of hand and the environmental disaster is like literally tangible, only then do they barely take the initiative. And all of the EPA's like PFAS knowledge already still comes from internal documents from these fucking corporations. So right now, they fucking know. All of these corporations currently are working with chemicals that they know are toxic. And they're dumping into the water. And because we don't know what the long-term consequences are, we have no way of regulating it. That's it.
To ban the new one, and you get a situation they call chemical whack-a-mole. Here in the US, the Environmental Protection Agency, the federal level, they recently put out some stricter guidance on PFOA and PFOS, which are some particularly bad ones that have been around for a while. And then you have individual states like Michigan, also Maine, that have been doing some particularly strong state-level regulation. But Dr. Park and other experts say it's just really kind of not enough. This is a situation that really requires strong top-down regulation of PFAS chemicals as a class, not just the individual ones, but as a class. We got to regulate them all at the same time. In the meantime, sure, you can flex your muscle as a consumer. Dr. Park will tell you not to buy microwave popcorn, for example. The bags are lined in PFAS chemicals. Then we come back to the pans. Teflon is a polymer of a particular PFAS chemical, meaning it's that one compound duplicated a bajillion times and all linked together in one big web of the same chemical compound. And so scientists think that if a chunk of Teflon were to come off and you were to swallow it, it probably wouldn't hurt you just because it's too big. It couldn't get into your cells. But through wear, maybe temperature abuse, perhaps individual little PFAS molecules could break off from here, and if that happened, then you ingested them, then yeah, they could potentially affect you. I don't worry about it too much in terms of my own individual health, but I am worried about the environmental effects of the factories that made my pan and of the dump where my pan will slowly decay for all eternity when I'm done using it. Dr. Park does not use any nonstick cookware. I have one pan that I use as like a specialist, pretty much only for eggs and fish, and I'm gonna try to make it last. No dishwasher, no super aggressive cooking. I've treated nonstick pans as nearly disposable in the past, and that's bad. I'm not gonna do that anymore. But at the end of the day, this strikes me as a problem that's just way too big and diffuse to be addressed meaningfully with individual action. So I say, call your elected representatives, and maybe all of us just need to start getting ready for the possibility that certain products we have in our life that we consider indispensable, maybe they're not.
This was a great video. Yeah. Call your elected representative so they can tell you to fuck off. You know? Anyway, apparently there's yeah, I saw the Department of Transportation. They said this is flat out false. There are constraints, but as the DOT has made clear, we will look at the NTSB investigation to take action necessary to ensure accountability and improve safety. Responding to Lever News reporting and pressure from the Democratic officials, Secretary Pete Buttigieg now insists he has no power to improve safety and reduce the risk of derailments. Legal experts and former regulators say that's false. I work in drinking water quality and was at a PFOA, PFOS roundtable yesterday. The fuck thing is that manufacturers were able to use these chemicals for decades, but now the burden to clean the water falls on often underfunded drinking water providers and wastewater plants. There are two updates. Apparently, Andrew Tate's Angels pressured victim to get a boob job to make her more attractive, claim prosecutors. And then on the other side, they were claiming that there's like newly unearthed audio that shows that some of Andrew Tate's victims were like colluding. But this one doesn't get as much coverage, obviously. The other one does. Bro, this person has been sending me this fucking thing for literally the entire day yesterday, I think. I've seen this link in the chat so many fucking times. Cops apology, I don't think it's enough. Explain this. Typical Austin. Army recruitment ad with controversial cops starring. TV ad for ROTC is deranged. Him talking about his accent. It's literally just the same link. Over and over and over again. He's trying so fucking hard. Quick Steven clip. It's like, I'm not clicking that, and I'm timing you out, man. Enough. Well, society pressures men such as Tate to get hair implants. I don't particularly see the big deal. Okay. Tate's entourage is alleged to have pressured one of the models to undergo plastic surgery while she was working as a part of his webcam scheme. The Tate brothers alleged to have paid an unnamed woman to undergo surgery before she eventually fled their suspected trafficking operation. The procedure in Romania cost upwards of 2,500 euros. The model was encouraged by the Tate brothers to get a boob job to be more attractive for the clients, a judicial source told The Sun Online. In a statement to The Sun Online, the Tates said they never told their associates to use pressure or intimidation tactics towards their employees. The woman who Romanian police are treating as a potential victim claims she was forced to work 12-hour shifts with just 5-minute breaks. It is alleged she had also been beaten by one of Tate's so-called angels, Georgiana Nagel. Nagel is alleged to have tortured her by forcing her to raise her arms in the air, causing her immense pain as it stretched out the still healing scars from her boob job. And then she eventually left the Tate operation. Nagel and the other angel, Luana Radu, attempted to make her pay the money for the surgery back. The victim is reported to have filed a complaint with the cops in Voluntari on the outskirts of Bucharest, but cops are alleged to have swept it under the carpet as they wanted to protect Radu, a former policewoman. Romanian internal affairs are now probing the seemingly botched investigation as well. The victim is alleged to have undergone a breast augmentation procedure in October 2021, paid for by the Tates. And a few days later, she's claimed to have decided to quit working for the brothers. She's reported to have gotten into a row with Radu and Nagel, with the latter then slapping her and forcing her to raise her right arm. The duo then allegedly told her she would have to pay the Tates back for the breast implants if she quit. And they then allegedly took her mobile phone and laptop as she fled. She reportedly filed a complaint with the police and the women then the women returned her items, but cops failed to investigate any further. Romanian authorities have launched internal investigation as it believes the complaints against the Tates were filed in 2021 and 2022, but were not pursued. They are still... It's a row, having a row, not a row. Ow. Okay, shut the fuck up. The English language is stupid. And you are stupid as well. For correcting me. Whatever. I don't care. Then there's also the other side, I guess, like something I've seen a lot on you know, the no jumper style. No jumper side of the internet. And I haven't even looked into it further, but I suspect that it's most likely misconstrued given previous information. Given previous information that was misconstrued by Andrew Tate stans. Where is, does anyone have that? It's like they're claiming that the two victims, some of the two victims were colluding. Oh, Rap House TV has it. Let's go. And the only people that have talked about this, exclusive wiretaps reveal that Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate were allegedly framed by their victims. Now, what I find particularly interesting about this is that the exclusive wiretaps are only covered by Rap House TV, No Jumper, and the like. Okay? Like, no serious media outlet has covered this yet. Now, of course, people will say, oh, that's because the Matrix, right? I haven't even looked into the material. But given the DJ Academics, No Jumper, Rap House TV's track record on issues, especially issues that pertain to misogyny, misogynistic people, what they may or may not have done, you know, I don't know if this is going to be the entirety of the situation. Just play it cool, got it, like you don't know. Play dumb. Bear, I'm not going to pull some tears, Eliona. And play dumb. Good advice. Thank you, babe. We are so good, though. We need a fucking Oscar. Let's go. Let's just go play it cool and change my name so it will not start a lol, got it. Yeah, I told you to be like saying a nice message and that we're hurt or shit like that and that we do love them but just don't like the situation so they will not think we are really against them, you know? Wait. They're saying you're colluding, but this can absolutely be read as like two victims of domestic violence just not letting the responsible party recognize that there are going to be met with like any kind of fucking accountability or consequences for their actions. I don't get it. Yeah, that's smart. Play the victim. I mean, we are, but like, yeah, act like we still love them and stuff. Haha. I mean, we are. Wait, what? Why is it in English? I think this was the two in London. No? Oh, it says April 2022. Wait, what? One day before the first raid. Oh, this isn't an. This is not the English ones. Sorry, this is a WhatsApp conversation between two of their, two of the other like remaining victims. Do you think he speaks Romanian or something? No. Or wait, are these? Oh. Never mind. This is 11:4. Yeah, this is translated. Andrew Tate stands are claiming that the audio is a deep fake and it's not his voice. Here are audio experts say it's fake. Yeah, I'm sure. Do we know it's November 4, April 11th? Wait, no. No, it's April. See? Yeah, I think it is April. I'm sure a lot of the girls was brought to Romania, so being English doesn't matter. Yeah, it's April 10th and 11th. What are we covering? This is new unearthed court documents, I guess. Which is, something that you can very easily, if you don't show the entirety of the conversation, something you can easily spread misinformation with. And even when they're talking,